All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Capital Conversations, something that we may soon brand as cocktail optional and conversations. Um, Thanks for joining us. My name is Faya. A little history about me for those who don't know me. I started a company called Leaving a Legacy Investments. The shortest version of why I started it is because I am not a trust fund baby. I have no legacy wealth. Um, and as I get older and things get way more expensive, I look towards retirement and realize I may need some more money, right? So, in an effort to look for additional streams of income, I fell into real estate, found a fantastic group, and started doing real estate investment. While talking to people, I realized how many people did not have a plan B. A lot don't have a plan A. And so I kind of made it my charge to start to share the education and opportunities that I was blessed to be given through the group of people that I've been connected with everyone else, right? In hopes that they take advantage of it and start to play catch up as I have. So I do have Brianna. We are co-host of this Capital Conversation. And we have a guest speaker, Jose, this evening, who'll be talking about investing beyond traditional rentals. So specifically co-living and RV parks as flexible, demand-driven real estate strategies, something I do not know a whole lot about, maybe a little bit more about co-living than RV parks for sure. He'll help you guys understand why these asset classes are gaining momentum in the industry. We'll start to learn how to make these deals work, how to think about what it means to operate them, what the risks are, and where those opportunities lay right now. So I'm going to pass it over to Brianna so you can get a few words from her before we turn it over to Jose.
Yes, welcome to Capital Conversations, happy hour edition. We all came with a little glass of wine or a drink in hand tonight, so we decided we brand it as such. Go get a drink if you want. As Faya mentioned, I'm Brianna. My last name's actually Chestnut now. We need to change that on all of our marketing, but that's okay. We'll figure that out later. But Brianna Chestnut, I started Soul Investor Co., helping you create mind and time freedom. Similar to Faya, right? I'm not a trust fund baby. I was have always had to make my own money work since I was 14 years old. Sitting at a 9 to 5, I was like, is this it? This can't be it. So that's kind of what brought me to real estate. And as I was learning, right, and Faya was learning, we, as she mentioned, wanted to share our knowledge so that people can learn with us and we can help educate people and they're not afraid to take those steps and it's not some far-fetched idea. So that is why we are doing this. And without further ado, we have Jose Cortez with Cortez Home Solutions. I will let him give you a little background on him, and then he will get started in educating us. Jose.
Thanks, Brianna. Thanks, Faya. So, a little bit about myself. I started educating myself back in 2008 when I didn't realize that that's when the market was the worst. um, I was like most people at the time watching A&E, watching all these people do fix and flips and thinking that I could do it. So I wanted to educate myself because I was the sole provider for my family of six, and uh, um, just kind of stepped back. I was in the military at the time, and I knew the military wasn't paying me enough to support my family. So I was working a second job, and I was like, I gotta find a way to supplement my income so that I'm not working an additional 40 hours on top of my military career. So fast forward 2013, I opened up my first LLC, started doing fix and flips, and then I moved. Well, let me rephrase that. I was deployed a lot, so my efforts got stumped a little bit. And in 2016, I got here to Colorado, where I actively started investing. Like most people doing wholesales, moved on to arbitrage, fix and flips, then arbitrage, short-term rentals, long-term, mid-term rentals. I did pretty much everything except for development. And we talked about talking about going to where we've been in places. IT, I asked me to talk about my background in the military a little bit. So let me, sorry for bouncing all around. It's not a scripted bio. So I told you I was in the military. I was in the military for 22 plus years. I retired as an E7 out of the Air Force. I did IT. That was my job. Started off as a missile comm guy and then transitioned to doing networks and data. Why is that important? Because like Faya, I was moved around a lot, or got to see a lot of different places, but I learned more than just um, networking. So I did switches, routers. I did security devices like intrusion detection devices, running cable, doing phones, doing video, doing satellite shots in the middle of a field, an abandoned airport, in a top of a hotel, like you name it, where there may have been a network that we didn't want to use maybe the host country, or we just need to make sure that we had our own comms to make sure that nothing was compromised. Most of the people that we used was my network that I stood up wherever we were at. So that's about as far as I can probably go into it without getting myself in trouble. So why should you listen to me? Because I have experience in co-living and RV parks, and not that I'm any kind of guru, but I want to make sure that I share what I know to make it a little bit easier and not as scary for you guys that are watching this. So I got into co-living probably a couple years ago, before it started getting to be like a buzzword. I have 4 children that are all out of high school, and as my kids were working, a lot of their friends were staying with their parents because they couldn't move out, couldn't afford it. Here in Colorado, for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you're paying anywhere from $1,800 and up. And you're like, that's a lot. Well, it's even more for a kid that's only making maybe 20 grand a year. Think about that. You're talking about almost 2 grand just in rent and maybe utilities, right? Times 12, that's $24,000. They're only making 20, they can't afford it, right? So that's when I started looking into this quote unquote co-op model, where you rent by the room and try to make affordable housing. Why is that important? Because again, the American dream is get on your own, be on your own person, stand on your own 2 feet, and nobody wants to feel like they're stuck. And co-living allows people to kind of have the independence that they can feel like they own they have their own real estate, for lack of better terms, but they also can support themselves and be independent. How does co-living work? So it's basically you're renting by the room. You buy a single family home, and there's sorry about that, 2 different strategies, right? You can either do buy a single family home and use the existing structure. So let's say you buy a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. You leave it as a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and you can either rent each room out. Hopefully, here in Colorado, you can get upwards of $950 per room, right? Depending on the size and the location. Master bedrooms, you can probably get up to $1,000. So what you're trying to do is rent by the room where it covers the mortgage that you're getting or have on the house, depending on how you structure your deal, but also cash flow. There is a strategy where you can add rooms. So when I look for my properties, when I'm doing my lead generation, my minimum is like a 4 bedroom, 2 bath, somewhere of around 1,500 to 1,800 square feet, preferably larger. But I mean, I use those as my parameters. No HOA, and the reason for the no HOA is because usually HOAs are pain in the butt when it comes to parking. So you have too many cars in the front yard or too many cars on the street, people start getting into your business and just makes it a headache for your tenants, and then they want to just move because they don't want to deal with people to keep on telling them to move their cars or messing with them when they're just trying to live, right? What else do I look for? Those are usually and greater than newer than 1973. Why is 1973 a very key year? It's usually 1973 is when they stop using asbestos in houses. So that avoids me having to do any kind of asbestos mitigation if I decide to open up a wall or do any kind of renovations of the house. If I get a nice enough house, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,000 square feet or more, I can add potentially another 2 bedrooms, maybe another bath. I like to use a ratio of 3 bedrooms to 1 bath. That seems to be for me, that's perfect. There is a platform out there called Pad Split. Their model, you use a 4 bedroom to 1 bath ratio. I think that's too much for one bathroom, me personally.
So that's
Ideally,
three people sharing one bathroom, like three people.
3 to 1 is a three bedrooms to 1 bath, and like I said, Pad Split do 4 bedrooms to 1 bath is their ratio.
Um, do you see people doing a lot of kind of what they call house hacking as far as them living in one of the units as well, or mostly with co-living is you living somewhere else
Both,
and renting all of the space to other people?
both. So I have an
Okay.
operator here in Colorado. She started off being the manager in the house, right? So she owned the house. She lived in one, I think, the master bedroom, and she rented out the other rooms. And then
Mhm.
she started adding to her portfolio. She got up to about 5 or 6 properties. And oddly enough, one of the tenants in the house that she was living in, they started dating, got married, and they moved out of the house. So that's kind of some of the success stories in co-living, that it's
Yeah.
not just a place to live, it's a community, and hopefully the people that are living in there get along well enough that you could have game night, have bonfires or barbecues in the backyard. It's kind of like a second family if you run the properties correctly. And that's kind of how I like to run mine. Is
How do
making
you
it
market that? How do you market that? Like when you're trying to attract tenants, what do you say? Like this is co-living, this is a room for rent, or what is a way to get tenants, I guess?
so you basically just do that, right?
Okay.
You're advertising that this is a co-living model. You'll be living with people that you probably don't know, um, and you just tell them what the expectations are, right? You need to maintain your room. These are the common areas. We'll pay for utilities, and it'll be furnished in the common areas, right? You'll have some storage space. You'll have specific cupboards, so specific space in the refrigerator so that you can buy your own stuff, right? And then you just basically set house rules and pretty much have a house manager in there to kind of help manage the piece. We have a policy where we have 5 and 5. What is that 5 and 5? It's when most conflicts happen is because people are arguing and not listening to the other person, right? So in our manage our conflict, what we do is each person gets 5 minutes. One person talks for 5 minutes straight, uninterrupted, can't talk, right? Once that 5 minutes is up, then the other person gets uninterrupted 5 minutes. And usually after those 5 minutes are done on each side, each person sees where the other person's coming from, and usually a resolution has come about. They say, "Oh, okay, now I see it from your point of view," because they stopped and listened. And then the other person, "Okay, now I see it from your point of view. All right, so we can find that common ground." Very rarely have we had to get involved in house conflicts because of that rule. Um, but you let everybody know that this is how it is. Each of our rooms have individual locks, right? So it's really your own kind of apartment. The only negative to it, in my opinion, is you don't have your own bathroom unless you have the master bedroom, right? You're sharing a bathroom. It's You have to keep in mind that don't think about it as, do I want to live like this? Think about people, um, how they may not have another choice. I'll give you an example. I told you I'm prior military. I had a friend of my son's who got out of the Marines, didn't have plan A, plan B, or C, like Pia was saying earlier. And he basically was living on the streets out of his car. right? So I found him a co-living property. I paid for his rent for about a month, actually two, till he can get on his feet and get a job because he had a couple of job interviews, and then he could maintain the rent himself. But he didn't. It was better than living, having a room was a lot better than living in his car, especially here in Colorado where it's cold. He didn't have to keep his car running with the heater running all the time. So it's a plus for him because it kept him off the streets, right? Another person that was in that house was a truck driver. He's always on the road, just needed a place to kind of store his stuff, come sleep for 6 or 8 hours, and then get back on the road and go do what you got to do. So there are different industries out there where this model makes sense. I mentioned about the kids that are friends of my kids, right? They want to move out of mom and dad's house because they're tired of the rules that mom and dad get put on them, and this gives them some freedom where they can actually be their own person, be their own boss, go to work, hang out if they're of age, have a drink without mom and dad saying, "What are you doing?" Right? Or you need to watch your brother and sister while you're living in my house. Like, I just want to be me.
It
So,
it it makes me think about college. Like I wish I had this when I was in college because basically that's what we were doing. We were co-living when we got off campus and went to live in houses and everyone rented a room. But none of us thought of it from the perspective of let's like somebody own the property or let's own the property and rent it out. So between that and the other one that I know is like a lot of the flight crews
mhm.
for airlines, a lot of
Yep,
them do co-living too. So depending on where their hubs are, like I guess Delta is Atlanta, those
yep,
are big. So yeah.
yeah. They
That's
call it
what I.
crash pads,
Okay.
and
Yep. Crash pad.
you can actually have two people in one room in a crash pad because they're
Oh,
not
because of
really
their
there.
shifts.
Yeah, and they're not there all the time, right? They may be there 8 days out of the month because they're constantly traveling. They may only be in town for a day or two, wherever their home base is. Um, and you can charge them usually like 500 a month, right? But if you got two people in one room, that's $1,000 per room that covers your expenses, and then you can actually cash flow. I see your hand up, Terry. Give me 1 second.
Hmm.
Um, but the nice thing with co-living is you can target so many different um, demographics, right? As you mentioned, uh, flight attendants and pilots, right? Uh, Children that are aging out of foster care. They have no other place. They've been in the system forever, and once they turn 18, they're like, "Here, have a nice life. You're 18. Go figure it out." Domestic violence victims, right? Homeless vets. Um, what we like to call the golden girls, people that are, they're older in age, but they don't need a nurse or anything. They're older and living on their own. They would just like some company, some companionship, right? Um, Homeless families. There are families on the streets. Sex trafficked people. There's so many different applications of co-living. It's crazy. My son, knowing that I do this for a living, him and five of his friends decided to go rent a house. And I was like, "You have a VA loan. I could have bought you a house, and y'all could have got this cheaper." But he wanted to do it his way. But it just goes to show you there's a need out there because, like I said, him and five other friends are renting a house, doing the same thing, but just paying somebody else's mortgage. Terry, go ahead. I don't want to hold you up too long.
Hey, one question and then a statement. First, my question is, what is your turnover ratio with this co-living model on
If
average?
you do your what's the word I'm looking for? If you interview and vet, that's what I'm thinking of. If you vet your tenants properly at the beginning, I mean, we've had tenants in our properties for 2 years,
Oh wow, that's
right?
a good
I
run.
mean, sometimes it's transitional. Some people only need like 3 to 6 months. Depends on how you set it up too, right? We do a month-to-month lease, right? To give them that flexibility because some people just don't like to be tied to a property, which is fine. But you'll find once you get them in and they move all their stuff in, nobody wants to move again, so they kind of just stay there unless something forces them, like they don't get along with their roommates, they don't like the terms, or like I said, maybe they got on their feet and they can afford their own place, an own apartment, or decide they want to buy a house. Right? There's all kinds of different ways or reasons why people would move out, but we don't use the pad split model, which is usually a weekly model. We do month to month, and it seems to work fine for us.
So how do you go about if you want to implement rental increases? Or do you implement rental increases? Say for instance, you got a tenant that been there 7, 8 months, but now you got somebody new coming in and it's like $100 more that that new person is paying. Do you go back and recycle and capture that what can be getting from the person that's already there?
So the way we do our rents is we look at the federal HUD. What is it called? It's the fair market rental rate. It's on the HUD website, and it'll tell you for whichever zip code that you're in what is a fair price to charge for like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, right, or even a studio apartment. And for us, we take that number and we usually do it multiply it by like 80%, maybe even 70% to make it more affordable. Right. So, increases don't usually go up unless that rate goes up.
Okay.
And we always underwrite it so that our numbers always will work with that lower number. So if we need to come up to where the federal government says is a fair market rent for, like I said, like a studio or 1-1, we have that room, right? Like I said, we take that, multiply it by 80%, bring it down a little bit. So we have that 20% to play with if we need to do increases. Let's say utilities go up, right? Or there was an expense like a roof that we weren't expecting. You could potentially, on somebody new coming in, we don't say, okay, everybody, next month we're raising the rents.
That's why I asked that, Jose. Not to cut you off, but that's why I asked that.
Sure.
And I asked that specifically because they pay one set fee, okay,
Yep.
but all the utilities is on you as the homeowner, okay.
Correct.
But what if you got somebody that's in there that want to keep the AC on 64? I don't run I keep my AC on 78.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because
Sure.
I don't like high utility bills. And
it depends on how you have it set up, right? So again, I told you there's different models. What I do is I have a Nest thermostat so that I can control it. So I lock everybody out.
Fire, you recording this? Because I got to get this
Yeah,
call.
we are. Brianna's
Okay,
recording it. We'll send you the link.
All right.
Because you managing the thermostat, you in there frying people so you don't have to pay utility bills?
No, I mean, like I said, there's house rules, right? So usually a very comfortable temperature is 70 degrees. So I usually set it right there. Now, if somebody says, hey, it's cold here, can I adjust it? As long as there's a consensus, there's no problem with adjusting it. But again, you have that in the house rules where, it's environmentally controlled, right? There are some models out there where they put mini splits in every room so that each person can control their temperature in their room, right? That gets expensive because those things run off electricity. So you do that in every room, that's a very high electric bill. I wouldn't do that. So, like I said, everybody has a different model. One of the new things that I was introduced to with co-living is what they call a business-to-business model, right? So instead of me having to go out and find and market to like young executives, right? Young people that are trying to find a place to stay, you work with nonprofits. For example, HUD-VASH, right? So I'm targeting veterans there, whether it be either homeless or just young E2s, E3s that just can't afford places, give them a place to live. I can get a master lease from the VA, and they basically give me a flat rate for all my rooms, and then they just keep it filled and managed. Right? I go in there, I pay for a cleaner that would come out once or twice a month just to make sure that the house is being maintained, so that nobody's ruining my house. And then we just keep, if everything's going well, you maintain that contract. If not, we just decide, at the end of the contract, it's like, it's great working with you. Just don't think this is a great fit, and you just keep it moving. Same thing with, like I said, some people do sober livings. So, if you want to do sober living, you could do that as well. There's plenty of nonprofits out there that will do what they call a master lease again, and then they help you fill your properties. You just got to be careful with who you're partnering with. I will tell you, here in Colorado, there's a company that is sober living, but the cops also know it as the crack house because there's needles all over the place, and they're constantly getting called because people are doing drugs in it. I'm like, that's not a sober living house. That's just a house that people came out of a program and just continued doing what they were doing before they went into their rehab. So it's not a hands-off model. You got to make sure that you're maintaining your properties and making sure the people that you are contracted with are actually doing what they say they're doing. So,
Do property managers manage those facilities sometimes?
you can. It's more of an operator, and unless everybody's different, right? And if you screen your tenants well, it's easy to manage by yourself. 7 to 9 properties, no issues. Myself, not having to worry about getting a property manager to do it. Low threat. I use basically software to collect my rents, right? So it's not difficult. And then when somebody, and it constantly reminds them as soon as rent's due in a couple months or a couple days or whatever, and they just pay it all online. I have my tenant screening online as well. They pay for the screening, and I have a conversation with them. We can walk through properties, show them what they're getting into before they ever sign a lease. So there's different ways, different management styles.
Hey, Jose, I have a question.
Mhm.
So you talked a lot about different, I would say, niches, right? Or different targeted groups of people. What about markets? Do you base anything off of markets? Like, I'm thinking here in South Florida, right? Like, the cost of living is absolutely ridiculous. So this would
Sure.
actually probably be a good option for a lot of people that can't afford to even live on their own. So is that something that you take into account or consideration?
Yeah, initially when I first got into this niche of purchasing, right, I was always looking for properties close to a bus line or some other kind of public transportation. So that way, in case people didn't have cars or bikes, whatever, they had another way to get to work or wherever they were trying to go. More recently, I haven't really focused on public transportation because I found that a lot of people have some means of transportation, whether it be their own personal vehicle or they just Uber to wherever they need to go. What the markets that I really look for are just basically houses are close to businesses, right, where people are going to work, because people like living close to work so they can go to, for example, let's think nurses, right? If you can find a place close to a hospital, a nurse working 12-hour, 16-hour shifts would love to live 5-10 minutes or even within walking distance of the hospital, so they can come home and just crash for whatever time they have left and then go back to work, right? They don't want to spend 30 minutes on a road when they can spend 5 minutes just walking across the street. So again, depending on what your target tenants are, would be depending on where you would buy it. Like I said, I tend to buy in metropolitan areas, usually over 100,000 people or more, and then closer to bigger businesses like your Walmarts, your Targets, your think of like Chick-fil-A's and your McDonald's, places where most common people that maybe even young executives, where you may have close to a like office park type of environment where there's a lot of businesses that are within a certain distance from the house would actually be working at. So again, it depends on what your target tenants are, is where you want to, what market you want to be in. Does
Yeah, that
anybody else
opened
have any
my
questions?
yeah, I was wondering. I would say that opened my eyes quite a bit to the different. I never even thought about the amount of different types of people that you can help. Homeless
Oh,
people. Yeah.
it's endless. It really
Yeah.
is endless. Again, my focus, because of again being a vet, is homeless vets. But I have a soft spot for kids aging out of foster care. I don't think it's fair that they turn 18 and don't got a place to go, and then it just increases our homeless situation. Um,
Hmm.
Again, sex trafficking and domestic violence victims. I think everybody deserves a safe place to live, and if I can be that person that can provide that for them, I feel like I'm doing what God put me on this earth to do. So that's my goal, right? Is to make sure everybody has an affordable place, a safe place to live, and hopefully I can do that for many people. My goal is to help at least 1,000 people per month
I love
with my
that.
investments.
I love that. Okay, so we all love the co-living. You opened up our eyes to like a whole nother world, right? We might have you back on Capital Conversations, but with respect to time, should we move on to talking a little bit about the RVs now
Sure,
and how you go about that and what your process is with the RV parks?
sure. Do we want to make sure anybody has any other questions before we move on?
Yeah.
Anybody that's on the Zoom have any questions that they want to ask me?
Yes, hi. Hi, everybody. I got on a little bit late. I'm driving, but I've been listening in. Thank you, Jose, for all you've been sharing. And I was thinking about this duplex that I'm looking at that's like, it's pretty cheap, like 140,000, but it's in a military town. The
Perfect.
town only has like, and I know Faya's on the line too. She probably helped me with this, but there's less than 30,000 people in town. The biggest employer is the Navy. And
Okay.
so just listening to you, I just thought about that. It's like a duplex with 2 bedroom, 1 bath each. Um, do you think that would be something that would be good? I don't know how the housing is for veterans.
So I would say yes, just simply, right? And here's the
Mhm.
reason why. One, believe it or not, the military does not pay its veterans very well, right?
Okay.
I know
Hmm.
people that are been in, let's say, 5 years, right? And
Hmm.
they're going to food banks to get food because they can't afford it for their families, or they're on WIC or something like that. Not that WIC's a bad thing, just understanding they need some additional resources to help support their family. So if you could provide something like that, a lot of people that are in the military don't want to live on base because they just want a place to go away and like actually get away from work. When you
Right.
are in the military and you're staying in the dorms, it's like you never leave work, right? Or if you're
Hmm.
living on base, sometimes you're so close to work that they call you in all the time. So having a
Right.
place off base where you just feel like you're getting away is awesome. If you
Hmm.
can get that duplex or at a good price where you could give them a discount or at least
Hmm.
something that they can afford, I
Right.
think you would never have a problem keeping it filled.
Okay.
Another thing too is you can always call the housing office and see what their need is. Sometimes they have a waiting list for their base housing, and you could
Okay.
be a provider for them off base. You could actually get a
Okay.
contract with them where they're paying you whether it's filled or not, just so they have a place for them to put whatever veteran that they have at that base, whether it be Navy or what other another service. But
Okay.
that would be a way to make sure that you always, one, have tenants, or two, always have it rented so you don't even have to worry about it whether it's full or not. Because if you contract with the base, they'll pay you for each side.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. And I love shared housing too. I'm in the LA area now, but I was up in San Francisco Bay where I'm from. And
Mm-hmm.
I had one house up there. I was doing it on a smaller scale. And, but there was always somebody that needed a place. We had a couple of
Right.
kids, one that aged out, that was a foster kid, and she became pregnant. We had 2 girls that came pregnant. We had a senior one time, a single dad with two daughters, but we worked it out, and it just made you want to do more because you can keep it full because people are in
Yep.
need. The other thing I was going to ask you, last thing, was about the rental fees, the rental laws for the
Okay.
shared housing. So isn't it a little bit more laxed, or is it still just, I know it varies from state to state,
I would
but
say it varied from state to state. Like, for example, Colorado, where I live, they got rid of the how many people must be, like, or restriction on how many people have to be related that lives underneath the house, right? We could have unlimited people unrelated underneath one roof. They did that
okay.
because they were putting homeless people in places and they were breaking their
Mm,
own laws. So they just changed the law so they could do it without getting in trouble.
okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
So you'd have to
Mhm.
find out what the market that you're buying the property in is, see what the restrictions are.
Okay.
I think it was Brianna earlier that talked about house hacking, right? If you
Hmm.
could have somebody that lives on one side and then rent out the other side, that kind of stuff as well.
Okay.
So you could do a
Yeah, I
long term
thought
and then maybe co-living on the other side, and that might get around that law.
the area that I was in, last thing I'll say that was interesting and might help somebody, is I never knew, and it changes from, city to city, because in San Francisco it wasn't allowed, but in Vallejo it was. So a lot of people, what happened was they might have had a 2-bedroom voucher, but
Mm-hmm.
the rents were higher than their voucher could afford. So people didn't want to rent to them. Their Section 8 voucher was no good. But what they did in Vallejo was they let them use that voucher for a room.
Yeah.
So the dad and the dad, it was a 3-bedroom house up, but the dad and his two daughters had 2 rooms and a bath. And then there was a senior on that same floor with a bedroom bath. So that I thought was really interesting. So you can use, I don't know if you've come across that or not, where you can have several people in a house that have their own Section 8 voucher. They just
I
rent
personally have not
rooms.
used that strategy, but I know people that do.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Michelle, that made me think of, I don't know, everybody probably doesn't know my story, but like I grew up homeless a lot but I lived with my parents, right, in a family of 5. So a lot of the times we would be living like on the campgrounds in the middle of winter. We wouldn't have a place to go. And I do remember one time there was like somebody from church who let us stay in their basement, but my parents could never find shelter for basically a family, right?
Right.
2 parents and 5 children. So now I'm wondering, and my mom, she always had this dream, right? She wanted to help like homeless families, but I'm like, well, how could that become a reality? Like in these co-living situations, can you house that large of a family? Can you have like a mom, a dad, and a couple of kids?
The simple answer is yes, right? So there's different strategies. For example, and I'll use Colorado as a great example. There are master bedrooms that are like 30 feet by 25 feet, right? That's like over 500 square feet. That's, in some places, that's a full apartment. So you could have 2 bunk beds, a queen size bed, and maybe a twin in there, and you can get a whole family just in the master bedroom. Or I think it was like Michelle was saying, where you have a master bedroom and say maybe another bedroom in that same house, where the second bedroom is 2 bunk beds, right? So you can have the kids in one room and the parents in another, and maybe have one of the older kids in their room with the mom and dad, or they put the older kids in the other room and the younger kids in the room with mom and dad. There's so many different strategies, or um, what's what I'm looking for? Way you can organize families into a co-living so they can be living together. Again, each room has its own lock, so they're secured and protected. Don't have to worry about anything, but they're still under the same roof, and they can basically provide because they have the common area plus their own special spaces.
I like that. Or like in Iowa, where I grew up, right? They have basements there. I don't know how many other places. So maybe basements is an option too in some markets.
And you can do a hybrid, right? You could rent the basement out to a family and then have everybody else upstairs, right? Some here in Colorado, in some cases, the basements actually have their own private entrances. So it's,
Yeah.
I guess, own unit, even though it's not a duplex or classified as a duplex, you could classify it as a duplex if you wanted to because it does have its own private entrance. So it really depends on how you have it set up. Um, and here in Colorado, I mean, you could have a full apartment down in the basement. Like, for example, in my personal residence, my oldest son lives with us. They have a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, basically apartment with a laundry room. So they have all the amenities that they need to be basically self sufficient or not to come up and deal with dad. So it really just depends on how you want to do it. It's really up to the individual investor of what they're willing to allow in their investment property and who they're trying to help and what they're willing to allow in their properties. So it's really, it comes down to that, right? Because some people may not want. So I personally seen sober living. It takes a special person with a special heart to do those. I don't think I'm that strong enough person for a sober living house. I can't do it. I'd love to do it, but I need to find an operator that has that special, because it takes a special love for the tenants that are in those properties. And given what I have going on in my life, I just don't have the time to dedicate to those type of people that are in recovery, and that's what I mean by those type of people. So I know that about myself, and I just know that's not a strategy for me because they need more than what I can provide. So, but you talked about getting back.
I know. I know. I was like, we have 10 minutes left, so maybe Jose, you come on for another round, another month.
Hey, I can, or I can just squeeze in if you want for RV parks if you want me to. You tell me what you want me to do.
Faya, you want to chime in here? Give your thoughts.
I mean, 10 minutes. If we don't have any more questions, if you want to squeeze it in, if we feel like we need to do another month, we can do that still.
Hey, I can come back and talk. As you can see, I can talk. So
yeah,
it's okay. You gave me a lot of food for thought on that co-living space. My mindset was limited to being near college campuses or airports. That's all I had.
Yeah, there's so much you could do with it. My last one was going to be a duplex right next to a university, but I wasn't even going to use it for student housing. Right? It was close to a bus line. It was close to a Home Depot. My goal was to partner with HUD-VASH, get some veterans in there, and then partner with Home Depot for them to teach them some construction skills so that they can start doing, because here in Colorado, there is a lack of those type of trades, electricians, framers, the construction all together. So they would be fulfilling a need. One of the things that I've done is volunteer with a company. It's called, I was just about to tell them, what is it? Veterans Projects.
Yeah.
VCP, Veteran Community Project. That's what it is. I built, or helped build, I should say, 26 tiny homes for homeless vets here in Colorado in Longmont. And so I partner with them. So when people graduate from their program, get on their feet and whatnot, they could move into one of my properties, right, to continue their success in life.
I have thought about the tiny homes. I love that too, because that was my thought. I was like, oh, maybe tiny homes will solve some of the issues of homelessness because people will be able to afford it. But then you just opened my mind with the whole co-living thing. So
it's another thing. And for example, here in Colorado, they're now loosening the restrictions for additional dwelling units or ADUs. That's what people can put in their backyards, and they have mother-in-law suites, right? For example, like I said, people are aging out. So instead of putting your mom or grandparents in a home or an assisted living, they can just live in your backyard in an ADU that's kind of like a tiny home where you're not putting them out to pasture. They can still interact with you, but they have their own space, right? So there's that option as well.
love that. This has been so informative. Does anybody else have any questions? I know
I'm looking at the clock, so I was like, oh.
I know. I think Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Faya.
Like I said, we can always do another month for
Yeah, for RV.
the RV parks.
Okay.
Which now I'm more interested because I feel like you're gonna give me a lot of good insight on how those things could work.
Well,
But you did
RV
say they're
parks
not hands
also
off, right?
be tied to co-living as well, believe it or not, right?
That's what I
Because
was gonna ask too, because we lived on the campgrounds.
you can do it. I mean, it really again depends on your strategy. You can buy an RV park and own the RV and then rent it out at an affordable rate, right? If your park is booming, I mean, it depends on like how much money do you need, right? If you, it really depends on your motivation. But I know a guy that I interviewed on my podcast. He buys land with mobile homes on it, and he does affordable housing. Because why? It's cheap as crap, right? He can pick up a mobile home for like $45,000. He gets the land dirt cheap, so his all-in cost, let's say per month for land and a mobile home, let's say it's $450. He can charge $750, $800 for rent. He's still cash flowing. I mean, it's not, get rich and move to or travel the world kind of money, but you do that a few enough times, you put your head on the pillow at night. You can feel good about yourself for helping people that are in need, and you're making money at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's
I'm
solid
being
supplemental income.
and I'm saying, $400 or $500, it could be cheaper. I think that when I interviewed him, he said, I think his all-in cost was like $250 for his loan, because the mobile home was considered like a vehicle, not a house, right? So the way he had to get it licensed or whatever, you could take that loan out 8 years at 45,000. You're probably, I don't know what you're paying, maybe $200-300, let's say. So all depends on how you structure those deals, how little is coming out of your own pocket.
I wouldn't even know where to look.
I won't say that I know it,
Wow.
but this person, his name is Adrian Smood. You can look him up. He's on my podcast, like I said, and he has his own own little we call it instruction on how to do this. He actually even has a book. Can't think of the name of the book right now. But he does it in Florida, right along like the I-4 corridor area. That's his only market. He doesn't go outside of the state of Florida, which I think is crazy with hurricanes and insurance and all that kind of stuff. He's like, that's my niche. I got it all dialed in. These hurricanes don't bother me. This insurance doesn't bother me. He's got it, like I said, he's got his systems dialed in, and he swears by it.
So speaking of your podcast, Jose, will you tell everybody, I see you have a website up here. I see your Instagram. There's a QR code. Do you want to tell us about your podcast? If you have anything else where people can find you, use you as a resource?
Sure. So do it this way. That QR code is my Blink card, right? I have Facebook. I have Instagram, which is that one right there. Right, and then that is my lending site. So I am a lender. That's my primary focus. Believe it or not, I'm talking about co-living today. I also have a school community where I show people how to underwrite deals to make sure that it's a deal, and I also help them structure. So if you want to do, like I said, a creative solution, I can show you how to structure that. I'll give you an example. I structured a deal where the individual was 2 years behind on their property taxes, but it was an inherited home that they didn't want to lose. They wanted to keep it as a investment property. So what we did was we made that person a member of our LLC, and then gave them 20% ownership of our LLC, so that they would have 20% ownership still in the property, so that they can still call it an investment property, but they don't lose the home. but we controlled 80% of it, of course, and then and we caught them up, and their cost or what they had to do to become a member of our LLC was basically transfer the title into the LLC, so the LLC owned the property because she owned the property free and clear. So basically, I bought it for their property taxes that were in arrear, which ended up being just over $14,000.
Wow.
So we gave her we paid the back taxes. We also gave her like 20 grand in her pocket, and she was gonna live. It was a duplex, and we were gonna have her live in one of the units for free, right? So that would have been her distribution from the LLC, and we were making all our money on the other unit. And we were
So
gonna.
Jose, I have a. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just let me
Just
finish
a
real quick,
quick
and then
question.
I'll ask you. We were gonna cash flow about 3 to 4 grand on that property, even though she was gonna be staying in one. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was just gonna say, so were you able to do the LLC because she didn't have a loan on the house? Can you still do it if somebody has a loan, or it's a little tricky?
You can. In that case, you would just basically do it subject to taking over the monthly payments and just say that that she would what's the word I'm looking for? The cost of being a member, or her requirement to be a member of the LLC is to transfer the title into the LLC's name still, right?
Okay.
So that way, title transfers from her name or whoever's name is into the LLC, so the LLC has control, so you have full benefits, right? Because of the LLC, you get depreciation, appreciation, right? You're gonna make payments on it. Sometimes it may not even be worth it. Depends on what their loan is, because shoot, these days there are people that got like 7.5% percent interest rates, and you can get probably 6.5, depending on your credit. So it's not always better to take over what's existing. You just got to take each scenario or each deal by itself and see what makes sense. But we made her a member of our LLC because she wanted to maintain an investment property, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't come across like we were being predators and trying to steal her property from her, right? Because everybody gets in bad situations, and that's why we offered it that way. And it was a undertaking, let me tell you, because it was a semi-hoarder house. She had families and friends living there for free. So, I mean, we had evictions that we had to deal with, getting storage units for stuff to get people to get their stuff out. It was intense, let me tell you.
Yeah. I have one like that. I totally understand. And then this one building that I'm looking at, when I talk to my lender, it's like they don't do private financing like they used to. So since I haven't done a lot of flips lately, I have to go under or with someone that would, go on with me. So I was thinking, okay, we could just go on together. But he said, no, we have to do an LLC together. How long does it take to get an LLC usually?
Depends how you go about it. I can get one in 5 minutes going to my state Secretary of State website. Pay here in Colorado it's like $50, and in 5 minutes I have my article of organization, and I have an LLC.
Okay.
Now I would advise that you don't not just do that, because your operating agreement will be very generic, and you want to make sure that you have very specific terms with whoever you're partnering with in your operating agreement. So if you want to do it quick, that's one way to get your LLC up quick and inexpensively. But I would definitely spend a lot of time on your operating agreement to ensure that whoever you're partnering with, that each party understands what the expectation is.
Okay.
Because you'll find out very quickly when money comes into play. People that you thought were cool and sweet and all that stuff, they can become very, very ugly. And not that I wish anything on anybody, but let's say you and I partnered and I got hit by a bus tomorrow, right? You're like, well, Jose's gone. I guess it's all mine. No, I have in my operating agreements that anything that was due to me goes to my family. That's why every time I partner with
Right.
somebody, it goes to my holding company, not me personally, because all of that stuff is already taken care of.
Uh, okay. Okay. That's good information. Really good. The only thing that makes me feel comfortable about this person, we have done a deal before, and he suggested it because I really wanted to take it back and do it myself.
Sure.
And so he said, well, you promised it to me. So it's like, but I have to help myself and my family too,
Right.
And so he had an agreement. The agreement kind of dissolved because we were doing some stuff with the.
Lost you there.
She was driving. She may have gone through
Yeah.
Tunnel.
anything. She'll come back.
She'll come back, yeah. But yeah, Jose, you've been, obviously very helpful to me. You helped me think of ways creatively too, and you're a wealth of knowledge when I talk to
Thank
you.
you.
And this has been very informative. So we appreciate you very much.
I try to bring value everywhere I'm at,
Yeah.
because I didn't have this kind of education. It's taken me years to accumulate it, and what's knowledge if you can't share it? So
I agree. I don't know if we should wait for Michelle to come back and finish her question, or she can connect with you offline.
yeah, if she's hearing or if she sees this recording, reach out to me. My email is jcortez, and you can see Cortez spelled right there, at cortezhomesolutions.com. Again, I'm on YouTube. I have the name of my YouTube channel is right above my head. And like I said, I even have a school community if you guys want that too. So I'm here to help if I can. So let me know. Michelle, love to, finish answering your question or hearing what you have to say. Is there anybody else that has any questions? I know I'm over in time, but I'd love to make sure I answer everybody's questions before we let everybody go.
Everybody's quiet, so
They're
we'll
all
make sure Michelle
processing the
has your.
information.
I know. We'll make sure Michelle has your information. We're on with her at least every other Saturday, so we'll make sure she has what she needs to get in contact with you and
Awesome.
get the information that she needs. And we'll make sure that all of your contact information is on the posted link for this recording.
Awesome.
So it'll be good to go. And I'll harass you separately because I have 1,000 questions and it's going to take.
I have 1,000 answers.
Yeah. So, if no one else has any questions or comments or anything else, we can go ahead and wrap up for the sake of time. But thanks, Jose. We appreciate you. We'll definitely have you back on since we didn't really get into RV parks the way we wanted to.
Sure.
And in case people have other questions about co-living.
Look forward to coming back.
Sure.
What you got, Brianna?
That wraps us up for episode 14 of Capital Conversations. We will have episode 15 next month on April 15th. That sounded crazy. I was like, wait, am I thinking of that right? April 15th at 7:30 p.m. at EST, and that will be seller financing strategies. And as you mentioned, we will bring Jose back on because you have been a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate you. So
I appreciate you having me on. Really do.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Cheers. Everybody give us a cheers.
I stay with a glass of wine, so always ready. Always ready.
That's
All right,
a wrap.
everyone. See ya.